what I'm trying to say is the solution to that is okay, political correctness. You should not reveal that you have this subtle racism towards me. I mean, by that person not revealing it, I may feel okay, yeah. So I'm not going to feel hurt. But if it's there and it's not just being voiced out because like, there's a penalty, like legal consequence, it doesn't make any big difference, really. Hello, everyone. Another episode with Caroline. New. We're going to discuss the challenges that tech leaders particularly deal with. Um, Caroline, we had some conversations in the previous episode regarding the challenges that the tech leaders deal with. And we thought that we should continue that conversation in this episode. So first of all,
Excellent.
like if you want to say hello to our audience, please go ahead, and then I'll pass
Yeah.
it to
Hi,
you. We
everyone.
have these high level topics that we went through quite briefly, and I'm going to leave it with you so that you bring him up, and then we can take it from there.
Okay, thanks, Ashkan, and hello, everybody. It's great to be back with you today. So yes, we were looking at the challenges tech leaders face and some of the impacts of technology that they have to deal with and consider. And as we were reflecting on this podcast, one of the most obvious ones happened out of the pandemic with the move to remote working. And I'm having lots of
Mm.
conversations with clients at the moment who are either dealing with challenges associated with remote working, or there's that whole conversation going on at the moment about, do you make people come back to the office or allow them, what's the ratio and so forth. So let's start, I guess, Ashkan, by talking about the impacts of remote working and how can tech leaders really effectively lead people that they may never see or see very, very seldom in person.
Mm. Yeah. Mm. So so how about you start? Like what's your view on that? Like
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
yeah.
I'll take it and run with it, sure. Because I was working with a client just this week who has,
Okay.
staff in Europe, staff in America. He's based in Australia, and there's these very real challenges of
Mhm.
leading people that you've never actually met in person, that you've hired over Zoom and remotely, and you're wanting to grow them, you're wanting to develop them, and how to do that effectively. And it's we were talking about how to structure his one-on-one conversations, how to hold them accountable, how to support them. He's had one of his people this week, well, the last few weeks, in fact, deal with anxiety attacks, and this is a real challenge for a leader. And my client is someone who's quite task oriented. He's learning leadership, but he is, the CTO for his organization, and so he's learning now that he has to deliver increasingly through his people, and really be there and support his people alongside focusing on the tasks. And it's who
Mm.
he's being as a leader that's really going to drive the outcomes here. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Oh, see, okay, so let's zoom out a little bit in,
Sure.
when we're discussing this. First of all, like things happen in life, um, and new conditions, new circumstances. Let's say, the COVID pandemic and certain things beyond our control, and they have their own impact, whether we like them or not. Yeah. Now,
Absolutely.
you can resist as a leader. But if you're going to be authentic about this and not sentimental and not in a way that arrogantly we want to put ourselves at the epicenter of the universe and go, no, it needs to go my way. Because if you're dealing with people, people have their opinions, they have their views, they have their preferences, whether we like it or not as leaders. So um, if we zoom out and observe how things change um, due to, like, let's say, pandemic or other conditions,
Sure.
then it's our responsibility to respond appropriately and to whatever basically life brings to us. Yeah. So this is
That's
not to relinquish control completely. This is just to acknowledge that we cannot fully control things. And this is something that more, I would say, inexperienced leaders they would very struggle with because sometimes we come from this traditional theory behind management that like human beings they have this evil side, and therefore they need to be governed, they need to be controlled.
yeah, but I find that's less of an issue in the tech industry than perhaps other industries. I find in technology, we do embrace, particularly when it's a technological driven change.
Yes, I mean, I know where you're coming from, but I mean, in general, I think there's still like many people that they relate to it that way. Now, it may not be that visible on the surface, yeah, because everyone talks about these good terms. I mean, all collaborative, talk about safe environment, and talk about like team culture, and but down deep there, when it gets real and we're in the field, then in action, then you see that they manifest completely different behaviors here and there. This is something on a daily basis we see working with different people. So now, so basically, what I was trying to say is like if we put aside that traditional theory behind management, we actually want to lead, we want to inspire, we want to bring people together, we want to create alignment towards a certain goal. Then we need to respect people's views, whether we like it or not, because like we're dealing with autonomous human beings that at the end of the day, their preferences matter. Yeah. So in that case, then it's just being realistic that the things like COVID pandemic, they had in their own impact. This phenomena to be studied rather than being controlled in a sense. Yeah,
Mm.
something has happened, and then it has its impact. And then if I'm an authentic person. I'm a leader who values developing congruent conceptions of reality so that then I can make more effective decisions, establish integrity, put the things, arrange the things in my organization as much as I can influence it in such a way that it contributes to its overall integrity, and that integrity is going to bring workability, and that basically translates into performance. It translates into revenue generation and profitability if we have the right financial structure in place. So, long story short, we actually need to embrace uh, these impacts. And one of these impacts is people want to work remotely, many of them. Now, still, there's a large proportion of people in different industries that I see that they don't actually value that. Yeah. They prefer to go to work, they want to be with their teammates and everything. They don't prefer to actually stay in their 72 square meter apartment unit and keep being there at the at the desk and keep working while the kids are screaming or something like that. Yeah. So there are lots of people that actually are inspired to work like physically being somewhere so that they can work with their teammates, and
Mm.
that's highly dependent on the industry and the type of work as well, obviously. Yeah. So, for example, as we're more talking about, talking about the ICT leaders, like, let's say a big proportion of what sits comfortably in that category would be software development, let's say. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you don't want your software developers and the team to actually sit there. They don't need to touch each other. They don't need to be in the same place. At the end of the day, even if they're sitting shoulder by shoulder, then they need to um, uh, pull the code from the repository online. They do their contribution, they do some work, and they need to push it back into the repository, and then another teammate is going to pull it back again, and then you will work on it, etc., etc. So there's not going to be much of an impact, at least at first glance, when it comes to the way that some engineers or software developers and everything works. But while, for example, if we're talking about the engineers that are building bridges, that's going to be a completely different scenario. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
basically, a part of this is going to be objectively, I would say, um, driven, in a sense that the nature of the work that needs to be done is going to dictate whether we can be flexible or to what extent we can be flexible, having the team members being at work or work remotely. But in some other industries, definitely that can be an option. And I think a kind of a moderate view that see it works is like to bring that flexibility, um, um, and give people those options, as far as they can, like as far as they can perform. Yeah. Now
Mm.
that requires trust building. That requires putting the right tools in place. That requires culture building in a sense that then people are more self-determined and self-motivated and they're reliable. Because so even if like people work together, this is a kind of assumption that some leaders would have, that like if you get people working together, definitely that's going to produce a better result. I mean, we it's a long time we deal with this phenomena of presentism, meaning that like a person is at work at desk, but they're not present, and their
Yeah,
mind is elsewhere. They're not actually working, yeah, and you can't fully monitor that. On the other side, you may have a person who's not physically there, but they're really putting their heart and time and effort and everything, in addressing some of the things that needs to basically be done. So it's really hard to easily say that like if people come together, it's going to be better or not. And these are subjects to, I mean, studies. We can study these kind of phenomena and we go from there. But yeah, so I think my point here is, before I pass it to you, is certain things happen. They have their impact. I would encourage leaders to have authentic awareness, to shape, to want, or to be willing to shape congruent conceptions of whatever basically is going on, and not being a control freak, and not living life or leading from this viewpoint that they can actually control everything, and um, bringing options and ensuring that people have choices, that it works for them. And then their challenge at the end of the day as a leader would be, how to then connect the dots so that despite giving, while we're giving these options to the team members, they can still produce that performance from the team. Yeah.
yeah, and I think, um, we have to think, as I intimated before, we need to think more broadly than just the work. When you're dealing with remote workers, even if it's a hybrid environment, um,
Mm,
intentionally creating opportunities to build relationship, intentionally taking time to get to know your people and to understand their context and know what, not saying prying, but genuinely sharing enough of your life and asking about their life, so there's some reciprocation perhaps, so that people feel valued and known and respected, and that there's this foundation of trust that you can build. So, because when it's just about the work, then people feel like a number. And so,
yeah.
bringing a level of care, a level of partnership. I was talking to a client yesterday, and we described his conversation with a remote employee, and I said, and he did four different ways of saying I care about you without using the word care, and I said to
Yeah.
him, "So did you say I actually care about you?" He's like, "Oh no, I don't think that's appropriate," and I'm like, "Why not?" Like, I
Yeah.
care about my
Yeah.
clients, I care about the people I work with, and I think it's
Mm,
entirely appropriate to say that and to show that in who we're
yeah.
being, because then people feel valued, they feel respected, they and it brings out, it allows them to feel trusted and
Mm,
trusting, and it
mm,
brings out the best in them, I think. I think when you have that, I mean, there's a model that we use in the coaching community called the Thrive model, that John Smaller developed, where he talks about, the two qualities or aspects that really contribute to high performing teams are literally trust and effective communication. And if you don't have that trust, then you're not going to get the best out of people, and people are not going to feel engaged or loyal
mm.
and want to stay and want to contribute.
I can't agree more, obviously. Now the question then becomes, see, so when we talk about You know, we were talking about presentism, or for example, we were talking about trust, effective communication. Um, the thing is, um, how you're going to actually cause that, because see, a part of it is going to start with how, as a leader, you relate to people in general, because you can be
Absolutely.
this thorough, like, kind of a person who has this big of a vision, and then you want to get people to do it for you. um but then there's another approach to it, which is like, I mean, in the first approach, then everyone, like, you're going to basically build transactional relationships.
Mm. Well,
Okay,
they're
so
not
what's
related.
your value? Okay, so you have these skill
Yeah.
sets, you have this kind of cool, you can get these things done in my big plan, and fantastic, and then do it, and that's
Mm.
all I care about. You know, you mentioned like relationship building, which is extremely important. But
Yeah.
yeah, so if that's going to be transactional, it's basically, if we are just commoditizing work, we call it job, and it's quite normalized, by the way. These are not like
Not effective
un
though, is it, Ashkan?
I mean,
It's not
so
effective. It's normalized, but doesn't
to
work as
like,
well
we
as.
need to see what we mean by effective, really. So see, like, let's take like two small businesses. So
Okay.
imagine that there's this station, like bus station or something, and then very close to it there is this um instant, like, fast food or whatever. And most people that would just commute there, and then they just go there. There would be people that they just are hungry, and they just want to grab something quick, and then they go. So that the shop owner may not really care about, like, who these customers are, if they're going to come back or not. Like, there's very limited option there, and people have to move. So that may turn into this kind of a transactional business. Now, on the contrary, you can be this business right there, that you actually care about your client. You want to know their taste. You care about the quality. Da 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 da, and you want people to come back. So that's a completely different type of relationship that you're going to build with people. Now, when it comes to technology-based businesses, or technology-enabled businesses, which will be a kind of a broad category of businesses, because which business is not tech enabled anymore? But
Everywhere now.
so, at the end of the day, you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with users, and you want them to come back. Now, and your key people are going to play a major role. So, like, you don't want to afford, really, high um employee turnover, especially in
No.
your key role. So
No.
you'd better. It's not just a kind of an altruistic, benevolent kind of motive behind this. It's actually, when you say effective, it's like, in order for you to be able to establish this thing called organization, first we need to look into how, as a leader, we're relating to people in general. Because, see, if you relate to people as resources, as some say, it's engraved into the language. We say human
Mm.
resources. If you're relating to human beings as resources, then some big part of the problem is going to start right from there. It's not the human beings being resources, but it's the work being done by human beings could be considered as economic resource. So that's a very, very important distinction. And I mean, if you as a leader have this big of a vision, and then you want to get people to do the work for you, and you're not really interested in who they are, where they're coming from, to build a relationship, build a trust, then you're building a completely different style of work. You would wish everyone to be replaceable, which has its own advantages, ironically. But to my experience and my studies working with different organizations and people, um, and I'm obsessed, with leadership. You know that. I don't think that's a very good long-term solution. the organizations, they want to last. They want to build products that they last, and they can build relationship with people and create authentic brands. They better not to choose that pathway of purely relating to people um, as replaceable beings, and in a transactional manner. Yeah. So you want to build relationships. You want to support people grow in their careers, and create opportunities with them within your organization so that they can grow. You help them grow, and then they're going to help the business grow. So this is how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and look, the technology tools can actually assist with that, particularly in a hybrid
Mm.
workplace, in terms of, you know, having multiple ways to engage and communicate, multiple ways to check in with people, make sure they're doing okay, and what support they need. So, I think the opportunity is to use technology as an enabler, use those levers rather than seeing it as something that keeps people separate and distant just simply because they're working remotely. Um,
Yes. Oh, I mean, I just thought that it's good to bring this up. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship is the term that it was coined by John Baptiste Say, the French economist. And in the definition, as far as my memory helps, he says, entrepreneur is the one who shifts economic resources from the areas of lower productivity and yield to the areas of higher productivity or return.
yes,
So, no, we're not talking about how the surplus value is going to be distributed, which is the big part of the controversy amongst different ideologies. Yeah, we will put that aside. We don't talk about distribution of wealth, but as an entrepreneur, you want to fix some problem. Yeah, so you want to fix some problem that a large proportion, ideally large proportion of people called market would resonate with. Now, in
mm,
order for you to identify those opportunities, you need people. In order for you to create value and come up with solutions, you need people. In order for you to actually execute on that and design and implement, then you need people. In order for you to deliver it to the end user, the users, to the people that are going to voluntarily choose to exchange their um, money, with the products or offering that you have. Again, you need people in order for you to communicate the value of whatever value you created. Again, you need people to influence the perceived value of your offering, and so on. So basically, you're working with a bunch of people, and you're serving some other bunch of people. That's what it is. Yeah, it's
very
if you
true.
want to, in a legitimate way, if you want to generate wealth. And the thing is, if you are blind as a leader to this very nature of what a business is, because see, we want to immediately think about business as a money making venture. Yeah. So immediately, because we're self interested and sometimes selfish, we immediately want to think about what's in it for me, what I can
Mm,
acquire, which is like
sure.
typically
That's human
revenue,
nature. Yep.
profitability. Yeah. But the thing is, if you're focusing so much on what to receive rather than focusing on giving first, yeah, then you are, because money is the medium of exchange of value.
Yes.
So then in that case, you are expecting the consequences of something which has happened yet. So therefore,
Mm,
you need to focus on giving, and then you need to, in order for you to focus on that, um, whatever offering you have, you need people. You need deep understanding of people. You need to create bond and alignment. You need to communicate vision, and you need to. So it's all about people, and this is the thing that sometimes we may neglect as technology leaders. Sometimes, and that's a kind of a pitfall. Yeah, because we're so
mm,
enticed. We're left in wonder in all this glory that it can be. It's being created
yeah.
in the technology realm. Yeah, somehow it's like magic, really. So we can be so mesmerized and astonished that it, like the bright light coming from that shiny glory, it's going to blind us, ironically. Yeah, we're not going to see some other major fundamental parts that are basically setting the foundation for all of this technological work to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree, Ashkan, because
Mm,
you know people are going to be your customers, they're going to be your teams, they're going to be your stakeholders, and you need to deal with people. And certainly, I find technologists will come from a technical background. Usually they'll have cut their code or done whatever they've done, and then moved up the ranks. And the further up the ranks you move, the more your focus needs to be on the people and less on the code or the architecture or the technical aspects, because now you're delivering through the people and you need to serve your team and while you're serving your customers and serving the business. And that's the only way that, as you were saying, you can have a sustainable business model and be
yeah.
successful long term. Yeah. I mean, and then at the end of the day, people, while being the delivery mechanism, the most important part of any business, any organization, also represent the biggest challenges. I mean, any problem will come from it's a people problem, right? Any challenge you have, well, other than code breaking down, but a person probably caused that. And so it's one thing. I know it's easy for technologists um, to become caught up in the excitement of the technology, and we see that at the moment with the focus on AI. And I saw a post yesterday. Someone was saying, "I don't want AI to, you know, create pictures and write poetry. I want AI to wash the dishes and take out the garbage so I can write pictures and or create pictures and write the poetry." And it was interesting. And we love to see what we can do with technology and what we can create. But we also
Mm,
need to be very mindful of the repercussions of that or the implications of that on the people that we're trying to serve. What are we creating and how's it going to be used, or what problems is it going to create down the line for our users or for our organization? So looking at people and looking at the tech industry, one of the issues that comes up again and again is the issue of diversity and inclusion. And do we have enough women? And or is this an industry where women can work? And it's something that I've followed for many years since the work that I did with the ACS in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And it's like, what's your stand on the need for more diversity in technology, and how do you see, where do you think technology leaders need to be putting their focus and attention in relation to this?
this one is a big one, like because there's so many different angles to it.
Yeah,
If you really want to deeply look into that, Caroline, um, and me and you, we had some conversation in the past, like
sure.
offline, about these matters. So, in my commitment to be as uh, authentic as possible, yeah. So sometimes it's really hard when you choose to be authentic. Now, this doesn't guarantee that you are going to end up being authentic, and your views is going to reflect the totality of reality. But at least, like, I'm clear with my commitment to pursue the truth of the matter when it comes to these areas. Now, I can understand multiple different sides due to the person I am from an identity perspective. Yeah, so this identity is a big topic today in today's world. And like, I'm not white, and I'm ethnicity, as I'm a colored person. These are the two quotes that they use. Now, at the same time, I understand some of these negative impacts of, let's say, a kind of a misinterpretation of the discourse around diversity and inclusion. Yeah, what kind of a backlash sometimes it has, or sometimes it turns into this shallow gutter game of tokenism. Yeah, so it
Mm,
happened a lot that, at least like as far as I could observe, it happened that, for example, you go to this organization, and this didn't happen just once. Yeah, so you go to the, like, once you enter, you see a person who's on a wheelchair on this side, like they put the desk of that person with disability right
Mm.
there at the gate, and they
So
want to
making
ensure that
visible.
there's a person of color there, and there's like so the thing is, or many times I've literally seen that explicitly, like for example, wanted at some point working with an organization, a mature startup, a funded startup, and everything was going well and everything. But then they come back to us and then say, "Oh, we actually are investors. They prefer to have um, a female technology leader or something like that, a consultant to work with us." And yeah, so it has become this thing that I don't think that at the end of the day it's going to fully serve. Now, so there are different sides to this, but let me now zoom out and then say this thing. Diversity matters. There's no doubt in it because diversity is even in the nature. Yeah. So we are to a degree different. Yeah. Now,
Mhm.
but the problem is like to what extent we want to focus on these differences because at the same time we are of the same root. We are the same species. We are the same beings in a way. Yeah. What we are is the same. It's
Yeah,
then
we're all
how we
human beings. Yeah.
are that it becomes different. So most of the things that um, even beyond organization or in like more in society, we may wish to consider them as differences. I think that there are like just different preferences. Yeah, this is a very, very important part of the conversation for me. Yeah, because I've been quite obsessed with this conversation, this discourse of identity and genders, and um, so we have different preferences, but then sometimes we perceive these different preferences as differences, fundamental differences, and that's a
Mm.
part. It creates lots of problem. Yeah. So what will happen here is like we then want to categorize ourselves, tapping into category theory, and you're going to come up with a countless number of categories to the point that then um, causing equality, even mathematically, is going to be impossible. See, if you have a growing number of categories and then you are aiming to cause equality amongst all of them, then you have a very, very tough job to do. Mathematically, it's going to be impossible. Yeah.
Mm.
Now, but then the question is like, do we really need to categorize people into all of these like explicit categories? See, for example, if you go to an organization and then divide people, play a game. Yeah, go all blue eyes people go on this side, and then the rest of people go the other side. And then you simply, yeah, and then you go, okay, so let's get the mean, the average of their income. And then let's say, for example, the blue-eyed people are going to have a considerably higher income in average. Then you're going to, as a shallow social scientist, not as a critical thinker, not a person who actually cares about the basics in the statistics, you're going to extract this information out of that simplistic data that, oh, see, there's inequality and like blue-eyed people are getting paid more than the rest of the people. This is not how statistics work. So often it's being said that data just speaks for itself. No, the data doesn't speak for itself. It's
No,
you
it's
at the
fed
end
by
of the day,
history and yeah.
what information you choose to draw out of, extract out of that data. Now, we can be biased and we can be this and that. Now, so the reason I'm talking about this, the reason I'm talking about this is there's lots of lurking variables. Like it's called lurking variable problem when it comes to statistics. In
Mhm.
that particular scenario I've created, just for the sake of argument, if you really want to deeply understand that, you need to put so many different factors in place. It's multifaceted so that you can get a better, more effective um, information out of that data. Yeah. Now, having
Right.
said all of these things, yeah, diversity matters. We are diverse anyways, and there is this assumption that people with different life experiences, coming from different cultures, coming from different background, they're going to have very different or sometimes slightly different perspectives and perceptions when it comes to observing the same phenomena. Now, there is another assumption, which can be a fair assumption, that
Yeah, I think
in order for us to tap into democratic leadership, we want to have pluralistic views. We want people in our, let's say, leadership team that they can look into the same problem, but from multiple different lenses.
yeah,
Now,
sure.
yes, it's a fair assumption, and that's great. At the same time, then we assume, well, we combine these two assumptions and we go, okay, so having women, for example, ensuring that we have women in leadership, it's going to bring perspectives that men on themselves they couldn't have, which again it can be fair to a degree. Yeah, like you can assume all that. You can say that like people from different backgrounds, different genders, different experiences in life, they're going to have different views, and the more diverse group of people you have, the more um, views you're going to have, the more perspective you're going to see.
They still need to be the right people in the roles with the right experience, the right qualifications, and so forth. But yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So
You'll get
now
that diversity of views.
exactly. Yeah, and there are studies actually shows not many people are willing to talk about it. Yeah, so some social scientists in academia they actually I had some conversation with a few of them. They consider it career suicide if they want to talk about these things because in major universities there is a level of ideological motive going on. Yeah, and like this is not just in our era. Like every time we have some of these ideological motives going on. So this idea that we are diverse, we have perhaps different views and everything, and if you want to tap into democratic leadership, basically you want to have pluralistic views, and it's just all great and good, and like we can assume that. Yet at the same time, we see that there are studies, academic studies, they're actually showing that like focusing so much on diversity inclusion it has a negative impact on the performance of a team.
Yeah, if that's your
Yeah,
motivation at the exclusion of, having the right people in the roles, that will. We've got to find the
yeah.
balance, I think.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I would call it integration, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay,
So it's a kind
that's
of
a good term.
integration of these views. See, at the end of the day, um, as a leader, like what I would like to value the most is competency. Yeah.
Mm.
And despite like capitalism has lots of criticism being drawn to it from its get-go to the point that it was like the enemies of capitalism calling it capitalism. Yeah. So capitalism
Yeah, it was
it's
a
like
negative
when you
term.
but whatever is known as capitalism today and like a general understanding of it, uh at the end of the day doesn't really much care about like for example, let's say if we can pay, let's say, women far less than men, yeah, and to get the same job done, why don't many capitalist leaders would just hire women?
At one level,
Like
that's
all
completely
leaders I
unethical.
know, they are very, very interested. Like they may have different ideologies and everything, different style of leadership, but there are
Mm,
some commonalities amongst business leaders. They want to cut cost as much as possible. They want
sure.
to create new ways of revenue generation. Mostly they're open to it, and they want to save time. They want to cut, the things that it's going to be. I mean, taking time a lot. So the thing is, we want to value competency at the end of the day. That's a number one. Yeah. So that's very well. But here's the thing. You talked about effectiveness, yeah, and there's
Mhm.
another word is efficiency. Now, if you're going to purely relate to our work as see, we need to have efficiency. Everything needs to be. Oh, it may work to a degree, but um at the end of the day, you're working with people. So basically,
Mm.
what I'm trying to say is, see, You want to care about competency, you want to care about efficiency to a degree, but running a business, leading an organization is not just exact science. It's not just like done through rationality. You're not dealing with robots that they can be programmed. You're dealing with societal matters. You're dealing with people's feelings. These are real, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
they're not very tangible and concrete. Sometimes some try to ignore them or neglect them wherever their gaze is away
Mhm.
from it. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, with emotions, with different motives, etc., etc. Now, what I think would be valuable, like talking for, let's say, for example, talking about women in tech, that like it's like everyone's talking about it these days. Um, I think that women or any other group of people, yeah, if you are want to
Yeah, it
just
doesn't
keep
have to just be
categorizing.
women. Yep.
Yeah, different groups of people or different individuals. I think what's most valuable, and I think that everyone would value it to a degree, is freedom of choice. Yeah, freedom of choice. See, for example, like if I choose to pursue my career in, like, let's say, becoming a CTO, yeah, I think that as much as we can, because like 100% is going to be almost impossible. Yeah. Like this equality of opportunity. There's so many things that are going to contribute into opportunities that are arising. But idealistically speaking, yeah, we want to have freedom of choice. We want no one to be restricted just because of their color of their skin or their gender or what they identify as, not to be able to pursue their career due to
Mm.
these matters. So therefore, like what I would value is that freedom of choice, like these opportunities that for people have, so that systematically no one is being marginalized or disenfranchised. So this is the thing that matters the most. Yeah. At the same time, see, for okay, so for example, if you are a woman, if you are a man, whatever you are, um you're pursuing this path, and that for whatever reason you find it to be extremely important to you, you know what, it may sit at the very top of your value hierarchy of values. You should be able to pursue that, and systematically no one should be getting in your way systematically. Yeah.
It takes a level of intentionality from the businesses and the organizations to
Mm.
actually ensure that those opportunities are conducive. You know, women who have
Y-
young children, for example, there are
mm.
different drivers that should be considered by the
Yeah.
by the organization, the hiring organization, to actually make it work. And it's got to work on both sides, right? There's got to be give and take.
Yeah, yes. At the same time, see, this is the part that it can get very controversial.
Mm.
There are certain things that I would consider them as being part of the first layer reality. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to these first layer realities, we need to acknowledge them. There's no way. Like your opinion doesn't matter. Yeah. So your opinion doesn't matter when it comes to gravity, let's say. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's the women who can give birth.
That's a
And
first layer of
that
reality.
this
Yes,
can be
yes.
quite
Absolutely. The law of
controversial
nature.
nowadays. But yeah, so it's fair to say, Cleveland, a female, biological female, um, with uterus and all the reproductive in genes, basically can give birth.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very unique capability that, for example, if I wish, I wouldn't have it. So the thing is,
Mhm.
like, this comes with certain. So this is the part of the reality of that a person who is female. Yeah, no
Yes.
matter what they identify as. Now, if this person chooses to give birth, so there's like technical process around it. Yeah. So I've been
Absolutely.
through that with my wife myself, so I understand what it takes.
Mm.
And at the same time, I've been in environments where, for example, like the person I was working with, or in organizations, like I've seen, like they're pregnant, they need to deal with certain complications during. So I think in most sensible leaders and organization nowadays, I see that they acknowledge that they try to be as supportive as possible. At the same time, see, it's going to be challenges if you're going to mix things. Yeah. So let's say, for example, like we see this individual. lady who wants to develop their career, her career. At the same time, like that has the desire to have kids and everything. Let's say three
Mhm.
kids. Yeah. So if you look into the first layer reality, let's say in the first, for three kids on one after another, yeah, you want to give it something like 6 to 7 years, isn't it? Yeah, you want to really give it. Um,
Well, it depends, there's lots of
well,
complications
of
in
course,
terms of how long it takes, and it's
yes,
not a
yes, yes,
recipe
yeah,
for
yes. I definitely agree that it depends on the circumstance and complications. I'm just trying to make it simple for the sake of argument. Yeah. So
sure,
basically, you want to give it few years that, like, if you are planning to have kids like one after another. Yeah. Now, so in this period of time, particularly to the point that then the kids are going to be in a position they can go to the daycare or you can leave them alone. And so this is something that, let's say, for example, if a female person um, is choosing to go through that journey, that's a big of a project on itself. Yeah,
absolutely.
from
Yeah,
giving birth all the way to, now, yes, you can have support from your partner, and like, as a person who's gone through this, like, I try to be as supportive as possible. But there are certain things that, for example, my wife decided to mainly do breastfeeding. Now, because of that, then, like, I can't replicate that. So that's the
no,
kind of decision that we made. Now, so it's going to take something. Now, so are you going to acknowledge that and then plan in those few years accordingly, or no? You're going to be pushing yourself. Because of the pressure that the society is going to put on you, or sometimes because you want to prove yourself to yourself and others, etc., etc. Then you may be motivated to put so many things on yourself. And I've seen that, like, that we have a good number of female, like, we have more female members in our community than we have males.
I
And
think also, though, a lot of women, there's a perception or maybe a reality for some that to
yeah.
put their career on hold or to pull back is career
Mm,
suicide. So that's
mm.
also fueling decisions. It's complicated.
Well, definitely it is.
Yeah.
Definitely it is. Yeah. So the point here is, what I'm trying to say is, so forget about, like, even having kids.
Mm.
I need to have my goals being compatible, even time wise, with each other. Yeah. See,
Sure.
for example, like, we in our business, we want to develop technology, we want to build a platform, we want to write books, we want to do this, we want to do that. Like, there's so many different things that we want to do. At the end of the day, you want to prioritize, which things for which period of time, what period of time is going to be your priority. Because, see, the problem that is like, if I'm spreading myself so thin, yeah, then I'm going to be in problem. Like, I'm not going to be able to prioritize and give focus to whatever it needs to be done. Like, I have many really good friends, and some of them are really in senior position. Many of them are entrepreneurs
Mm.
that are female, and I think that a good number of them, they have done a brilliant job by how they prioritize, when they chose to have their kids, as much as they could control the thing, yeah. And they integrated their career very well, I think, into the motherhood and the parenthood. And they are the ones that, mm, it's not my understanding, but it's like they tell me how ineffective they've been in causing that. Yeah. And there are patterns that work, and there are bad patterns that they don't work, I
Sure.
think, when it comes to that. Now, long story short, so if I want to zoom out, see, diversity matters. We are diverse anyways, but then not to the point that it's going to deeply compromise competency, not to the
Mm.
point that we want to have like cosmetic employees, or we want to have just like tap into this tokenism that, yeah, see how good of a diverse company we are. We have this group of, a representative of this group of people, have a representative of that group of people. The thing is, these groups of people are quite a lot, and it's keep growing. Yeah, yeah. And then if you want to have a member of each group being in the organization, I don't. I don't really see how that is going to work. Yeah, especially for example, if we're talking about the small to medium sized businesses. So
Yes, in SMEs, it's tricky. Agreed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
But it
then
is.
another thing that, like, just to ensure, because this is something, this some conversation that can be taken quite wrongly.
Yeah.
Um, um, I need to be responsible around what I'm saying. Yeah. So what we're saying is, no matter if you are a man, you're a woman, you identify as, so you want to ensure the the objectives you have are aligned, um, and there's no mismatch at the end of the day. So you want to ensure that the objectives you have are congruent, are compatible. Yeah. And it doesn't matter, like, if it's like you're planning to have kids and developing your career, or for example, you have like three projects you need to choose between, like which ones to go first, which one goes. And there are times, depends on like so many different factors, you can run a few projects at the same time. Yeah. But
Mm,
it all depends. All I'm saying is, because I see lots of women, they're being pressured, particularly women and men too, in different ways, but they feel pressure by society that, yeah,
mm.
you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that, and basically the society is pushing them, or they feel compelled
Yes.
that they should be superwoman. Yeah, they need
Mm,
to have six kids and at the same time being the three of three companies, and they need to do it alone as a single parent. And I mean, it's tough. I mean, we have 2 kids, and I know how hard it is, yeah, so, it's not just a matter of daycare, they don't sleep easily at night, and
mm,
still, like, you have to put them to sleep, yeah, and so it's a tough of a job. I just want to say that this should not be taken lightly, yeah? Now, at
mm,
the end of the day, it goes back to, like, your circumstances and the projects that you have on your desk, and what kind of a support system you have, et cetera, and what's better for the kids, for yourself, and but yeah, so these are all good. That goes back to my first point. I said that I value freedom of choice. As far as the as a person, I know that, like, if I'm going to pursue any of these pathways, there's not systematic barriers, blockages in front of me. That's the thing I think we should aim from a societal perspective, from a organizational leadership perspective. That really matters. That's important. At the same time, I'll go, if you are being pressured by the society that you need to be in a certain way, that contradicts that freedom of choice.
mm.
Yeah.
We want freedom of choice. We want organizations to create opportunities. And ultimately,
Mm,
and I totally believe this, um, competency matters. And so we need
mm,
to be choosing people who are the right fit for the right roles. I mean, there's issues that we might discuss another time about unconscious bias and so forth that I think
yeah,
also play out here because we do make decisions emotionally and then justify them rationally. And we need to be really clear of our intention
yeah.
in terms of
See,
how we're employing.
for example, like you see some of the leaders, like political leaders that are being so applauded for. So this person is so proud of the fact that they made like their cabinet half women and half men. Yeah, I mean, I understand that there are some value in that.
Mm.
At the same time, see the problem that the first, for example, 2 generations of feminism they have was, why is it that the people on the boards, the people in leadership positions, are being chosen sometimes purely based off their genitalia?
I
And
don't
the
think it would
same
ever
thing
be
is,
purely that. Like, that's I think
sorry?
that's probably I don't think it's ever purely because of their gender.
Well, I
I
mean,
think there's
that's the narrative. Yeah, I'm not saying that it was the
yeah,
case necessarily. What I'm saying is it's the narrative that they would go, yeah. So the problem is people should not be chosen purely or mainly due to their gender, sitting in the roles. Yeah, but then
yeah,
if
you've said
you're
that
going to go and push this motive that, okay, so now we're doing it, but half half. I mean, this is not solving the problem. At the end of the day, you still are mainly prioritizing, like, choosing people based on their gender. At the
but
end of
that
the day, like, if you're dealing with some major problem, let's say, for example, health issue, and you want a surgeon do you really care like what gender the surgeon is? I mean,
No,
it
of
doesn't
course
really
not.
matter much like what they identify as. Like you want to stay alive. So therefore,
Yes,
like when it comes to critical moments, then we see naturally we would value competency, mastery,
yeah,
proficiency. So I think that in the other realms is the same thing. Like we want the right people to be in right positions so that then we can pause entrepreneurship. Yeah, as we discussed the definition of that. Yeah, so we want to actually cause this thing that we can shift economic resources from the areas of lower
mm,
productivity in the higher productivity in return. We want to actually effectively be able to understand our customers and users, understand their burning pain, their problems in that market, and effectively work with the people that are competent enough at the same time they're polished enough in terms of their being and how they are to create these environments so that we can collaborate and we can work together, bring multiple different perspectives and their perceptions, um, have a decent understanding of the market, decent understanding of the strategy and how we want to go about it, and execute on that. So in that, I think definitely, as you said too, like competency, proficiency should be extremely valued. At the same
yeah,
time, we want to acknowledge that society, there are some social discourses. There are certain things that democratically like we should care about because like people have these preferences, people understand themselves differently in today's world than like in the past, and whether you as a leader you want to be fully agreed with whatever basically things going on or not, at the end of the day it's not about your opinion, it's more about the people that you're leading. So if you want to create a cohesive environment, um, so that people love to work in and love to work with each other, then we need to go beyond our personal views and preferences and create that kind of a diverse environment. So that I'm very up for, but not the tokenism, not just to tick the boxes and like have some compliance list or something like that. Yeah.
yeah. I think there's still an argument for representation, because I think
Hmm.
that's important and that diversity of representation. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, for me, competency is the number one. That's the piece. And as you
Yeah.
say, if they're operating on me, I want them to be good.
You
So,
know, like yeah, Caroline, I think what I found, and this is our experience. So I'm not saying that
yeah,
this is the totality of the truth. I think when you actually deeply start looking into these deep fundamental qualities of human being, when you, as a leader, you choose to be as responsible as possible, as accountable as possible, as authentic as possible, and have a
mm,
healthy relationship with your fears, anxiety, and courage, and presence, and all of that, it manifests itself. See, you don't necessarily need to target to go and then choose people from each and every diverse group. I mean, naturally, yeah, because you have polished yourself so that you're not biased, and it happens to become, and that's the beauty
yes.
in it.
The challenge
Uh-huh.
we face is that the vast majority of people have not yet done this work, Ashkan. And the vast majority of businesses, people are not polished. And we need to
Yeah.
deal with the reality of that as well. I mean, yes, of course, please, leaders, polish yourselves. And then things will work much better. We will have greater integrity. We will have people being their best and bringing their best. But I think the reality right now is that that's lacking in so many areas, and it's lacking in technology businesses where they are doing things
Mhm.
of great impact. So I think
Yeah,
we need
yeah.
to
So this is quite touching. I mean, because at the end of the see, I'm a system designer by trade,
I know.
and the thing is, some of these, I mean, like these systems are being designed by human beings. And when we're talking about polished human beings, it's a lifelong journey. Yeah. It's not some like we have certain people that are fully polished and then certain people are not fully polished. Yeah. Everyone is at the stage of how they relate to key qualities in life and then how they let that manifest their behavior. So, at the end of the day, um, solving human beings' problems. lays upon the integrity of individuals.
Mm.
So the thing is, um, we are envisioning a world in which da 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 da. Yeah, we want to envision in a certain way. Like a kind of a 2B model of the human world. At the same time, in systematically, yeah, if we want to get somewhere, we want to also care about looking into where we are at the moment. We want to have your two, as is model, so that then you can go towards to be model, and what
Agree.
sits in between is the strategy,
Yeah.
how to. The thing is, if you're so focusing of where how we want the world to become without much paying attention to how things are at the
Mhm.
moment, we're going to be in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, see, the thing is, sometimes we feel that if we go and then we create laws and legislations and policies, and we can push people, and yeah, these are good as last resorts. But so if you want to really align people, particularly in leadership space, so that they care about certain things, it needs to start from the heart. It needs to start from there. And you mentioned care.
Mm.
Sometimes we talk about care and love and some of these qualities, compassion. And some of these leaders, people in position of leadership, they just simply degrade these terms into, okay, so soft skills, and like, yeah, no, these are soft traits. Sorry, they say soft traits. Well, and I think that some they explicitly communicated to me myself directly that, oh, like, Ashkan, we're talking about the high employee turnover in our sales team. We want solution there. You're talking about love and compassion. I'm not talking about my intimate relationship with my spouse. And that's exactly the
Mm.
blind spot. If you want a high performing team that they can collaborate with each other, they can complement each other, they want to have that bond like a sport team.
Yeah.
You then need to relate to them quite differently. You need to relate to culture building differently. You want to hire people that they actually value what we basically talk about. So it's a completely different paradigm that, see, it's like many of these leaders or people in position of leadership, they want the result to be in a certain way that is not
Mhm.
compatible with their existing paradigm of thought.
Yeah.
So in order for them to produce a completely different result, they need to actually transform. And that's the main part of the work that we do. So when we, for example, we're talking about the diversity, it's not that I'm taking it lightly at all. As a matter of the fact, I extremely know that it to be important. As a person who's a migrant, as a person who's like, I have an accent, like I don't look like a typical, uh, you know, the thing is, I experience, and I still experience lots of things, even in intellectual communities. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've learned not to take it personally. Like people, we human beings, we can respond to things that we find unknown quite weirdly here and there. Yeah, but
Mm.
what I'm trying to say is the solution to that is, okay, political correctness. You should not reveal that you have this subtle racism towards me. I mean, by that person not revealing it, I may feel okay, yeah. So I'm not going to feel hurt, but if it's there and it's not just
It'll
being
show up.
voiced out because like, there is a penalty, like legal consequence, it doesn't make any big difference, really. And this is like it's first-hand experience. It's not like I understand when you talk about representation, it is important to a degree. Yeah. But at the end of the day, see, if you are a leader, it comes with it. See, no one is going to be offered true leadership. The moment that you're doing that, then that person is not a leader.
Yeah. If they need to be
So
pushed, they're not interested.
actually, yeah, it's like it's actually very condescending. It's very
Mm.
patronizing to say that, okay, so in order for you, because of the category that we put you in, because you sit in this category of gender inclusive, whatever basically category it is, that you need an extra support to go into the leadership position. I mean, I don't want that personally. Like some people may like it. I think that that's part of being a leader, that you want to be dealing with tremendous amount of challenges, even sometimes systematic challenges. That's what
Mm,
makes you being a leader, because like you're the one who's causing that change. You are the one who actually brings people attention to something that they were trying to be supply. No, this I don't mean that like you want to do it single handedly. Yeah. All I'm trying to say, and I hope that it's landing well, is um, you are a leader. You aim to be a leader. Leadership is not like, like putting your legs on the other leg on the desk, having cigar in your mouth, and then ordering people what to do. Yeah,
no,
this
yeah.
is not. This is a kind of a simplistic view of leadership. Leadership is not something to be given to someone. You need to acquire it. And that sense of acquiring that position due to your competency, due to your perseverance, due to your empowerment and responsibility and care, and so many other things, you want to own that. You want to own it powerfully. The moment that you are putting someone in that kind of a position, they're not going to own it. This, by the way, doesn't mean that I'm not saying that everyone's going to find it same as same hard as another person. Some of us, due to our gender, due to our ethnicity, due to our whatever, yeah, we're going to find it sometimes even 10 times harder to sit
Yeah,
in a
which is
position.
the issue, because that shouldn't be
Yeah.
the case, right?
So I think like there was a time I was watching this interview with Jordan Peterson, and then they're discussing that political correctness and everything. And then some part of it, Jordan Peterson said that, "What do you mean, like when you say white privilege and everything?" And then this person was quite like a little bit passive aggressive, I think, and then was saying like he was calling Jordan Peterson, "You are a mm, mad, mean white man," which is a hell of a
No,
thing to say in an intellectual debate. But the thing is, when Jordan Peterson goes like, where is my white privilege, and that's exactly the problem. That's exactly where the that some people get so resentful around it. Yeah. So the fact that you are speaking in English, the fact that like in order for you to fit into
privilege.
basically whatever it is, you don't need to. You're going to find it relatively more comfortable, yeah, then so many and like no one is going to tax you. Like for example, on my end, I'm not going to tell him you're a meat man, whatever. I'm not going to even resent that person. The thing is, you want to acknowledge that, for example, a person like me, English was not my first language. I needed to learn a whole language from the get-go
Yeah, huge
so that I
obstacle.
can write
Yeah,
thousands of words in my books. So the challenge of writing a book in a different language, which is not your mother tongue, it takes something. And in order for me to create a community so that, like have people trust in whatever basically I'm saying or whatever I'm doing, that took a lot. Yeah. And we experienced that with media, with PR, with, like all of these things. And see, again, I'm not saying that anyone should be resentful anymore, but the acknowledgement of that is extremely important.
yes,
And that's
agreed.
like the beginning of being this polished person, that you go, you know what? We're not in the same circumstances. And you know what? Like it's really hard to be in the same circumstances. We have, as individuals, we have different experiences, we have different like background and strength points and
Yeah,
weaknesses and all of these things. And that's why this whole discourse of equality, like I get it from a legal standpoint. Yeah, for example, we need to be equal in the eyes of law. But I mean, when we talk about equality of opportunity, it's good ideal to go towards. But at the end of the day, to what extent that's going to be put in place? I mean, this is something.
big
I mean,
conversation, isn't it?
yeah,
Yes.
it's a conversation on its own. Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
hope
great.
that whatever basically I said, it lands as empowering that I want it to be. I don't want us to have sentimental perspectives around these matters. I want us to be realistic, and at the end of the day, leadership is not something like it's not a piece of cake that like it's offered to someone. And if you want to be the leader, you need to give it what it takes, and at times it can be brutal.
It can take
You
a
know,
lot.
and yeah,
Yes.
it takes a lot. It takes a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's rewarding. You own it. You own it powerfully. You create that condition for yourself, and you can impact um, other people's life, hopefully positively.
Absolutely, you can create those opportunities. We should wrap up on that note and thank our
Right.
listeners. And I think we're going to talk about artificial intelligence next time. So I'm looking forward to that
Sure.
conversation. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you,
Yeah,
Ashkan.
let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah.